My name's Aliette DelPozo Rodz, and I'm a shareholder here at Shutts Bowen. I always wanted to be a lawyer. I always wanted to be an advocate. And I really found myself at home in a courtroom. I wanted to become a partner at the time. I was an associate. I wanted to become a partner. And in 2007, I became a partner, and then I said, okay, then what's the next step? I wanted to become a shareholder. And so I made that my self-fulfilling goals to become a part of this firm and grow together with the firm. And it's been a constant growth and a constant ever-changing relationship. I was young. I was 36 years old, and I'm proud to say I was the first Hispanic female to become a partner at Shutts. I thought that was a great opening of a door for women. And prior to that, we had less women in the shareholder position, and we have really opened the doors from 2010 forward. I mean, we have had so many women that are capable based on their credentials, not because of a woman being a woman. And that's one of the fortes that we have. We look at attorneys for who they are. My litigation practice is dynamic. It is always very interesting in that I have commercial cases with complex fraud and tort claims, and I also have business contract disputes and shareholder disputes. And I also represent many institutions and assist them with creditors' rights and issues pertaining to debts that have been incurred by their debtors, and how to best resolve and either correct or modify or what's best for the client. I mean, that's always key. A good litigator is someone that listens to their client. You need to understand what it is that your client wants, and then you need to look at the big picture and say, okay, how am I going to get there? And have a strategy and have a plan. I think that's what, you can't get focused on the litigation, but rather focus on the goal. And the litigation is the means to the end. The recession had a huge impact on the law. It had a huge impact on, I think, how the court system also viewed different types of parties. At the beginning of the recession, you saw how sensitive and delicate the courts were to debtors. And then you saw a shift, really, of the court system in the abuse, I think, that has had an effect, at least in our community as well, with regard to people, keeping property longer than they should or taking rents. And I think people, like everything, a surgeon may get desensitized after doing millions of surgeries the same type, the same day. So do judges. I think that we're all human beings, and you kind of understand what are the real facts and can look at, are these people having a true issue, or has the delay been that delay? So I think that the mundane, everyday effect that the recession had is definitely more regulatory work, more paperwork. But by the same token, some of the requirements in the court system have been more tedious than before. Technology has changed law dramatically. I mean, I remember the days when I could go home and that's it, you were turned off. Now your clients send you a text message, a WhatsApp, an email, and they leave you a voice message, and it's the same one all across. I mean, I think that we are connected 24/7, and that has its pros and its cons. Of course, it has both. Yes, you can do research online, and quite frankly, it's so accessible. And you can also file online. Most court systems are now receiving everything electronically. It provides us access to the documentation and an easy way to also be more effective, I believe, because when you're submitting something by online, e-filing, you're submitting it to all parties at the same time. So it has provided efficiency as well. I think we will have a paperless society. I think that that's the route that we're going. I remember the days when we used to have faxes as the hard copy, and that was the quicker way versus the proverbial snail mail. But nowadays, I think U.S. mail is just so rarely used. I mean, I think eventually everything will be electronic?
Well,
I find, interestingly, there's been a shift where a lot of judges are becoming mediators.
Okay.
And while a mediator does not necessarily decide any factors, I think that they have provided a very strong indicative feel for the weaknesses of a case on both sides, which is always good to hear, not only from your advocate, from your attorney, but from the independent third party that says, hey, this is a weakness, how about this? And this is a positive, how about that? And so I think mediation is really a great opportunity, which I often use even when it's not required, to try to get the parties into a room and see if you can resolve. Typically when you have litigation, people are bleeding, if you will. Yeah. And so you want to try to see how quickly you can put that Band-Aid and get well, versus continue that process. We have been very excited with the new laws. Yes, the embargo is very much still in force, and so it has not been lifted, but there have been abilities for companies to explore and to potentially do business in Cuba. So we have been assisting our clients with that investigative phase in this early time that the laws have been ever-changing. Right now, I think we're going to be waiting for who's going to be our next president. On that decision. But without getting into politics, because quite frankly, our Cuba Task Force has been very focused on business. What we really have wanted to see is how can we assist and in which way can our potential clients provide a benefit to the Cuban people. I think that the laws are, and both from the Cuban side and from the US side, are a living and breathing organism. And so because we are treading in unknown territory, if you will, after so many years of having no business exchange predominantly, there's no set way to do something. It's really kind of an open opportunity to question and to present. And one positive thing that I have seen is that both the U.S. and the Cuban counterparts have always wanted to say, come ask, come inquire. Let's see if it benefits the Cuban people, and then by the U.S. side, let's see if it fits the regulatory parameters where you can and it's permissive. To effectuate the mission, which is something to better the Cuban people. I think the Cuban people have been so happy about this change that has occurred, and I think that the U.S. Has also had such a positive effect on this movement that it would be difficult, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, for any president to close the doors that have already been opened. But I think the question really is, will they continue to open them or not?